Welcome to the Dive Heart First podcast, where we clear out what has been troubling in the mind so that we can dive into the intelligence and intuition of the heart. I'm your host, Jenn Walker, and today we are going to talk about manifestation. And we're going to talk about this aspect of manifestation that a lot of people don't talk about. And before I do, and before I potentially lose my non-woo crew, if you don't like the word manifestation, let me say this in a different way. So it's that moment of realization, aha, or clarity of direction, a direction that is more congruent with who you are, your values, and or your preferences. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about what to be aware of in that transition between realization and actualization of the thing. Okay. So you've had that realization, that aha or clarity. Fantastic. And know from this moment forward, this train has already left the station. And what I mean by that is the one thing in life that we can be certain of is change. Everything is temporal. There's an impermanence to life. And so everything is in constant motion or change. And everything is orchestrating for us. And that might sound very nice and ethereal, but let's just look at it through a neuroscience lens. So when we have these realizations, aha, or clarity, we light up different neurons in the reticular activating system of the brain. The reticular activating system of the brain acts as a filter, becoming aware of certain things that would be valuable and useful for that realization. So we'll start to notice different people, we'll start to notice different resources, conversations will come in, and more clarity, more realization, more steps towards the actualization of that thing will come in. So that's all well, fine, and dandy. And the thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the transition. The transition between the location that you're starting from and the destination that you're going towards. And that it's completely normal and natural to have a mini freak out in between. Okay, so this might look like, and it doesn't have to be limited to, feelings of rejection, feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, stress, fear, even panic, and feelings of grief. And this is the reason why I'm doing this podcast episode. So this week alone, I had 2 conversations with 2 different clients just about this. And both of them had this major realization about their business, both of them. And what they noticed is things started to change for them. And sometimes what that looks like is clearing out anything that's not that. So if we're interested in a better relationship, well, we might lose the relationship that we're currently in to make space for the better relationship. Okay, so I talked to both of these clients and they noticed different things. And of course, little stresses. And one of the clients said to me, he's like, it's funny, this contract that wasn't renewed, I don't even want to do the contract, but I noticed the feelings of rejection. So he knows now where he's headed. He's not interested in himself renewing that contract, but he still noticed this mini stress, this mini overwhelm, and this feelings of like being rejected, even though it wasn't a contract for him anymore anyway. And then the other client, when I talked to her, she said she noticed feelings of grief, even knowing that she was super excited of where she was headed, but grieving the past and grieving what she had known and what had been familiar that she was leaving behind. So with both of them, I shared a little wee silly story that illustrated this in a funny way of this messy middle in between the realization and the actualization of that thing. And it's a personal story, and I thought it mildly amused them both, so I thought I would share it here today with you. So the story goes, essentially, a while back now, I was about to take this epic road trip. I flew into Calgary. I was popping up to Canmore to visit with some friends. I was going to drive through the Kootenays down to Roslyn to visit a family member, then over to Kelowna for a wedding, then up through Kamloops and Revelstoke and Golden and back to Calgary, visiting friends along the way. Anyway, I get into the Calgary airport and I get picked up by my shuttle driver that's taking me to my car rental place. And my shuttle driver's name is John. And we just have this great connection. He reminds me a lot of my dad. We're having good, witty banter the entire time, great conversation. And we get to the car rental place, and John goes in with me into the back room. And all of a sudden, the manager walks out. And the manager comes up to me and he says to me, "Sweetheart, we're going to give you a free upgrade. Any car you want to drive." And I was like, oh, so sweet, like really taken back by the generosity. And I thank them so much. But I explained to them I couldn't care less about cars. I rented some basic economy. I know nothing about cars. I don't care about cars. Whatever you got, I'll take. And the manager was pretty persistent. And so he started listing off all these different makes and models. I was deadpan. I had no response because I don't know anything about cars. And then all of a sudden, he persists and he says, "Do you want to drive a Jeep Wrangler?" And for whatever reason, everything in my body lit up. And I said to him, "Oh, yeah, I want to drive a Jeep Wrangler." So I left the lot, the sunroof came off, and I had the most magical trip. I had such amazing connections with the people that I was reconnecting with. I met new people, had new conversations, crazy things happen at fruit stands. Also, the Jeep. I mean, I would see a dirt road, I would take it, I had some time, it would take me to the secluded, beachfront that I had all to myself. It was just this beautiful, magical experience in this Jeep. It still like brings a smile on my face when I think about it. And I know when I got home that I knew what my dream vehicle would be to manifest, and it was a Jeep Wrangler. And it's more than just the Jeep. The Jeep is a representation, an anchor or trigger that reminded me more of myself, the aspects of myself that I really like, that curiosity, that wonder, that adventure, that laughter, that freedom, that peace, that ease. And so it's an energy, it's a frequency. And I knew what I needed to do. I cut out a picture of a two-door white Jeep Wrangler and I stuck that sucker onto my vision board and then I left it. And not too long after that, my 2003 Honda Civic, that I affectionately refer to as CindI, broke down. And I completely panicked. Although I knew I did it to myself. I'm like, of course, like I say, I want this thing. Well, this thing will start to clear out in order for that to pop in. But I wasn't ready. And I had such a freak out about it. I was in my second year of coaching at the time, and I was still doing a side hustle in massage therapy just to make sure that my bills were covered. I had a little bit of savings, but I wasn't in the market to invest in a Jeep Wrangler at the time. And it stressed me out. It completely stressed me out. And I hadn't looked into things, I hadn't researched things, and I just wasn't ready. So I took her to the mechanic, and after the mechanic looked at CindI, the 2003 Honda Civic, he gave me the news and it wasn't good. He's like, "Jen, you're going to have to put thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in this car. It's not worth it. I think she's done." And I was still not ready. And I noticed at that point that I had a moment of grief with it all. Because the truth was, I loved that car. That car I got when I moved back from London, England, and I drove that car across Canada to Vancouver Island, where I lived for 2 years. It had done multiple trips up and down Vancouver Island, drove me back to Ontario, and then down south when I had a relationship with an American man down in North Carolina, and tons of like just fun, interesting road trips in CindI, the 2003 Honda Civic. And CindI was hilarious too. She, of course, her air conditioning didn't work, her radio didn't work, her dashboard was just lit up with all like the check engine, like danger, danger warning signs everywhere. Everything rattled. Her doors rattled. I swear her engine rattled. She made these squealing sounds around a corner. And she was the butt of a lot of jokes with family and friends. We always joked that I didn't have to text when I was a couple minutes away because CindI would alert them of our arrival. So although I knew that transition was going to happen, I just wasn't ready for it. So I clung on and I asked the mechanic, can you put like a few $100? Can you put some money into it just to keep her running for the next few months? And so that's what he did. And CindI lived to see another day on the road. And not too long after that, a few months later, I was driving home and I truly didn't know if her brakes were going to work. So after white knuckling her home and coasting her into a parking spot, put her into park, I took a nice deep exhale for arriving alive. I turned her off and took the key out of the ignition, and I knew that that was the last time I was going to drive her. And from that point to the moment I got the Jeep Wrangler was a week. And that's a whole different story on a whole different level. Things that came in, people connecting me with Chrysler dealership owners, 3 of them, savings I got, a cousin that came in with a voucher. Like it was just nutty. People that came in to drive me to the place that I bought it. So within a week, I found a Jeep, was able to pay for it outright and to pick it up. So I share all that story as the subconscious speaks in symbols, stories, and metaphors. And there's something about that story that has really stuck with you. So wherever you are, thinking about your location currently, if there's anything in your life currently that you don't love or is not in your preference, know that it's temporal. There's an impermanence. This too shall pass. Take a moment and just survey the scene and just have a moment of pure acceptance. And you don't have to hope that things will change. You can expect that things will be changing. And if you take anything from my story, if you have a specific destination that might be of interest to you, start to do some research in the interim. So say you want to move locations, but you have no idea where you want to move to. Maybe do some road trips or ask some questions, like look into what that would look like if you're going to get a mortgage. So start doing the research in that realm. I know good friends of mine, and this is another story, but good friends of mine, they were interested to move to a house with more land. And in order to manifest an easy transition of that, they started to clear out the stuff that they wouldn't be taking them to their new home. And sure enough, the new home came in, they were able to sell their house, and then they didn't have that stress or overwhelm of like, oh, now we have to do all this stuff to get ready for the move. They were ready for the move. So prepare along the way and take those little micro actions so that when the inevitable change happens, you're like, oh, of course, and I'm ready for it. Also, don't be surprised, obviously, when things do change. When we ask for things, just like my example with CindI and my examples with my clients, a lot of times things that are not, that will clear away. And think of them as clearing away space for the new thing to pop in. And the last thing I will say about this, that if you have a mini freak out like I did with CindI, you know that I'm not judging you. And just bring a little compassion and a lot of humor to the scenario so that you can enjoy the transition along the way. So that's it from me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure there's aspects of this story that lit up different memories of your own story. So, what came to mind for you while you were listening to the story that I shared? And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed today. I know I have. And thank you so much for spending time here with me today. I love you, and go out and have an absolutely tremendous day.